Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Daily. In this episode, I chat with a good friend and fellow comic, Ethan Everhart. I'm actually at his place for this one, so you'll see the scenery change here shortly if you're watching the video, but it's a fun episode. We had a lot of fun, talked about a lot of comedy experiences and stories and a bunch of different things, but make sure to follow him on Instagram at the Ethan Everhart. Check out his band. He's also in a band called Solar Flare Sunset. But with that being said, let's hop into the episode. I just want to address real quick before we get into the stuff. There's some stuff. This is an actual little studio setup compared to my little couch, and I don't know if it's because I haven't eaten food in almost 48 hours or if just this officialness. It's got me a little. You know when there's like official stuff set up, you just naturally you're like more like
This is official?
this is more official than a couch.
Is it? Well, yeah, but I feel like
It feels, I feel the pressure.
Practices right there. I
feel like this is a new. You ever been interviewed by like a local news station when you were growing up, younger? No, not just like sports or whatever. I mean, they're looking for stories.
No.
Oh, dude, I bombed every interview I ever did. I did an interview as a swim team captain in high school, and I got like halfway through the interview, and the guy just came up and he goes, "Stop, stop, stop." I was chewing gum, and my coach came over and goes, "Spit it out," and he put his hand out, and I just spit it in his, and then, I mean, I wasn't doing good from there, but that really rattled me, and I just bombed the rest of it. They're like, whatever questions they're asking, you're just like totally not in the moment. And you're like, yeah, we practice hard, and we water,
really like
streamline, flip, turn. You're just saying like words. You're like, oh, hold your breath, freestyle backstroke.
I did a radio interview with my old band a long time ago. I think it went well. I can't remember.
Yeah, you were all on the radio.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little less formal.
Yeah.
Dude, those. I don't know what it is, but all those places, like the local news, they go for the one take. I also had another one with a job. It was like the first job I had out of college, and this young, very attractive news anchor came in. She did the whole setup. So she set up the tripod with the camera, and I was super nervous, not because she was attractive, just because I'm like, I don't want to interview. Like, I don't like...
How old were you?
24.
Okay.
And also, like, it was with a company where I'm not the owner. Like, the owner's there. I'm like, why are you asking me to do that? I don't know. I mean, I haven't been told, like, hey, kind of portray this about the company. It's just like, no, I don't. What do you want me to say? So I asked her beforehand. I said, what questions are you going to ask me? Just so I can kind of have an understanding of where it's going. She goes, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And I remember thinking, like, that's not what I asked. I was like, this is not going to be fun. And I mean, it wasn't great. I didn't tank, but it wasn't great. It was definitely out of the moment. And then the last interview I remember doing in Nicaragua, I was at a rodeo, and the guy who interviewed me, so when I was walking in, I asked him a basic question in Spanish. I was like, when is the show starting? And I guess he took that as, hey, this gringo, this foreigner, speaks Spanish. I'm going to interview him during the show. So he comes up like mid rodeo and like surprise interviews me. I mean, it might have been live TV, to be honest.
It's out there though. It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, I think. Because he came up and he just asked a question, and I mean, I had no idea. It's in the heat of the moment, and you're like, wait, what? Como? Okay. And he asked again, and I was just like, I was like, I do not understand. So my friend took a picture of it. I still have it, like, of the guy with the microphone in my face and me just being like, And I mean, I was just awkward for like 15 seconds, and he was like, all right, bail.
Never mind. Bad choice.
Yeah, I was like, dude, come on, man. I prepared that when are you going to open for 30 seconds before coming up to you. And that's one sentence. And that's me saying it. That's not me understanding a question.
I did, I worked at a Taco John's in high school, and I'd been working there for like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Muscatine High School, the video class, whatever. I didn't go there, but it's a bigger school than the one I went to. And these kids come in. They were probably seniors or juniors, and they're like, "We're interviewing local people who work in fast food. If somebody would like to do an interview," and nobody else would do it, I'm like, I guess I'll do it, because like I was
You
in
didn't
high
check
school.
with your boss?
She wasn't there.
Oh, and you
And-
you said,
but it was
yeah.
just for, I can't remember the exact circumstances, but they maybe they asked her and then she asked me to do it. I can't freaking remember. I can't.
I'll bleep that.
I don't. It was a long time ago, but I've been working there for like 3 weeks, and they start asking questions, and I'm like, I've only been here for 3 weeks. I don't actually know the answer to that one. They're like, "What's the best food here?" I'm like, "Well, the 6-pack and a pound is $8.75, and it's 6 tacos and 2 potato olays, and."
Yeah. They're like, how much does it cost for this combo? You're like, I haven't been trained on that yet.
I don't know. They didn't show me how to do the register. I just run the fryer right now.
I'm supposed to stay in the back. I really shouldn't have come up front for this
I
one.
wash dishes. I don't know what you're...
What's the worst interview you've ever had for a job? Like not on TV, but you ever like bombed or just had a weird interview?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, because
You've never had like one of those scam jobs or like one of those door to door?
No.
No? Ugh.
I hold on to
Lucky,
jobs like somebody used to hold on to a spouse. Like a long time
like
ago.
back in the good old days,
back in the good
when
old
people
days.
respected marriage.
Yeah, like, because I worked like at that Taco John shop. I worked there for 4 or 5 years. And then
Wow.
I worked in a factory for 1.5 years, and then I worked at a gas station for almost 3 years. And then when I moved out here, I was personal training for 9 months, and then the pandemic shut everything down.
You just set that up as if you've worked at every job for 25 years. You're like, I've averaged about 1.5 years at jobs. I'm very loyal. That's pretty good compared to...
I'm only 29. You get your first job at 17. That's not bad.
My first job, I worked 4 years. It was summers, though.
Well, I had summer jobs before it, too.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
easier to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
The distance. You just do
Yeah.
2 or 3 months out of the summer, and then...
Yeah. But I like the last school. The last school I worked at, well, the first school I worked at, I was subbing. So it was right after the pandemic. I got my subbing license. And this school kept popping up that was right down the street from my house. So I'd go there and I'd sub. And after like the 4th time, they had 2 different campuses. Like the kindergarten through 4th grade was in one building, and that's the only one I'd ever gone to.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I accepted a 5th grade position one day. So I showed up to the K4 building, and they were like, "No, you're at the other campus. That's 5 minutes up the road." And it was like right at like 7:55, and class started at 8. And I'm like, "Oh no!" And I sped over. That was like 2 minutes late. And then Courtney, the principal, comes in at like 5 minutes into class. Luckily, it was like a party day. It was like right at the end of the year, so they were like celebrating.
Pay a
like,
quarter, you get to wear a hat or whatever.
Yeah, something along those lines. And so I didn't actually have to teach or anything. But the principal walks in, and she's like, "Are you Ethan?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I talk to you in the hallway?" And I was like reverted to like 16 years old. I'm like, "Oh, geez.
I'm in trouble.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble." And I come out, and she's like, "Do you have your bachelor's degree?" And I'm like, "Come on. You know how smart I am." She's like, "Actually,
You're like,
no.
quiz me.
Come on.
Ask me about the 1800s.
I got all the answers, baby."
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, we'd like to offer you." I didn't even interview. She's like, "Well, people around in the other building have been saying they really like the work you've done, and we'd like to offer you a position." And
Wow. So no interview at all.
No interview at all.
Dude, I've had some of the weirdest interviews, and I think a lot of people have had these. I remember I had like one of the first interviews I had out of college. I was desperately just trying to find like a career job. I mean, it wouldn't have been good, but anything other than like making $7.25 at Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, which I did. I made $8. But
I know you should tell that story on stage.
But I went out. I drove 2.5 hours to Richmond in an oversized suit for a manager of like it wasn't a Walgreens, but it was like a drug store.
Like a CVS or Walgreens.
It was like a local one like that. And I mean, I had zero management experience. I mean, I had no bit. The fact that they called me to interview kind of makes me upset, because then I just wasted that whole drive. But I got there, and you ever like I was such a young moron, shy, no experience, no confidence. And I mean, I knew as soon as like they saw me, oh, I shouldn't be here.
You can just see the look in their eye.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't know in my head if I was like, maybe it's like manager of like Hat World or whatever that store is. It's like the size of a kiosk. I pulled up and I was like, this is an actual store. Nobody is going to hire me as a manager. I mean, what am I doing here? I felt pretty stupid doing that. But then I did a door-to-door one of those scam marketing ones.
Oh my God.
Where they house up in like a nice.
It's like Amway or something.
Similar. No, I guess a little bit. Amway's a pyramid scheme, but this was called
I got a story about
executive.
Amway.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
If
well,
you finish yours, I can tell it afterwards.
so it was one of those like it was called executive marketing, and basically you go door to door, and then it's a pyramid scheme in that sense, but like you go door to door, and then you trick 4 people into doing that, and then you kind of move up the reins like that. But the way they get you is this guy had a like 8x8 office in a nice office building. So I thought that whole office building, or at least that whole level, was the company.
His. Yeah.
So I went to the first interview. The guy told me absolutely nothing, but he was like, we'd like to invite you back for shadowing. And I was like, well, I don't really know what's going on, but I'd love to come back. You know, you're 24. You're like, whatever you've got for me.
Do you more than $725? Cool.
Yeah. And he didn't even talk about pay. I was like, I'll take $725. I'm wearing a suit right now. I feel, pretty official. And so I came in the next day, and the guy who I was shadowing, he's like, all right, we're going to hop in my car. And that was immediately, I was like, what do you mean? Aren't we going to see like behind what's in the room back there? What are they making back there? So we go in his car, and then he's like, I hope it's like 100 degrees. We're in suits. He's like, I hope you don't mind.
Where's it? Is this in Virginia?
Richmond as well. And he was like, my AC doesn't work. I hope you don't mind.
Oh my
I'm like, well, I mean.
And you're in a suit?
Yeah, we're both it's summer. It's humid summer in Virginia. It's 95 degrees. And yeah, basically he's interviewing me in the car, and then we pull up in a neighborhood, and we go door to door, and we ended the interview in a Taco Bell where like the cliche, he like draws out the structure of the company in the shape of a triangle without realizing it, and you're like, this is like a sketch. As he's like, spilling his meat, mild sauce on the paper, and you're like, this is. And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, I think I'm pretty interested. If you could let me think about it, I'm definitely thinking.
Yeah.
Like, and then as soon as I leave, I'm like, oh gosh, get out of here. But that was I've had a handful of weird ones like that. But you said what was the Amway?
So yeah, this is about 10 years ago, and
God, I got some Amway stuff too.
In
Iowa.
Yes, in Iowa. And I was working at Taco John's still, and my band was about to go on this tour. So it's probably a month and a half before we go on this tour. A guy I knew from high school, he hits me up. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And we start like talking, and he's like, it's a classic. How much do you make a month?
That's what they hit you with in Iowa? Every time I got hit, they go, do you want to own your own business?
Yeah, and then it was that comes later.
But
he's
flipped it.
He's like, how much do you make a month? I'm like, I don't know. Probably I was making like $10 an hour at Taco John's.
You told him double, and he still laughed at it.
Well, I was like, it's probably. I didn't know what he was doing. This is the first experience I've ever had with it. I'm like 20 years old.
Yeah.
And
I was the same way. I was like,
I'm like, I don't know, like probably $1,500. He's like, what if I told you could make $1,500 a month and make your own schedule? I'm like, well, I'm listening. And I know this guy.
Yeah.
Personally, so
like he wouldn't do me like that.
And so I go over to his place, and he's like explaining it, and like in my head I'm like, this sounds fishy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's actively trying to dupe me.
Yeah.
And so I was like entertained it, and then I brought a friend the next time, and like we're kind of looking at each other whether he and the guy who recruited him is there doing the whole spiel,
the big boss,
and we're kind of
with
like
the
looking at each
BMW.
other. And afterward, my friend Brennan, I'm like, what do you think? He's like, dude, this is a pyramid scheme. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. But they give you a free box full of stuff if you say yes.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to sell anything.
Yeah.
So I said yes. I got a free box full of Amway stuff. And then I text the guy. I'm like, hey, I'm too I'm going on tour. I'm too busy for all this stuff, and I can't do this. And he's like, hey, no problem, man. No problem whatsoever. And he didn't try to hit me up again. So I got this free box of stuff.
I did. I mean, I got duped a couple times. Maybe I'll come back to it. I want to get into some comedy stuff here in a second. But I think I've told you this before. I had a guy, I was working in an apartment complex as a leasing consultant, and he came in. I toured him around, and it was so funny. He called me after, and he goes, hey, we're still thinking about the apartment, but just wanted to see if you're interested in owning your own business. Like, you're a really sharp guy, and I think blah, blah, blah. So I set up a meeting, and I went home that weekend before meeting with them, and I was telling my parents, and my dad goes, sounds like Amway. And I literally go, no, Dad, he thinks I'm sharp. And then it was Amway. And so I went to the meeting, and it was like 2 hours. Like, I'm too much of a pushover to be like, not. But also, to back up a little bit, if anybody here isn't familiar with Amway, or if you're younger, you're coming out of like college or something looking into jobs, if you ever get 30 minutes into an interview, probably even before that, and you still don't know what it is, you can probably go ahead and know that that's not a job you want to have.
Yeah, if they lead with how much do you think your time is worth?
Yeah, if they all these jobs,
own your own business, it's like, you're just going to give me a business? Is that how this works? That's not how the world works.
You're like, yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I have zero experience, but I think I'm ready to own a business.
I had a 3.6
have employees.
GPA. No biggie.
Yeah, I did not have that.
I really rocked my thesis. Neither did I. I had a 3.4.
Did you? Ooh, that's way better than me.
Hey,
I hated,
really
out of
smart.
college, they always ask for the
Really
GPA because that's like all you have, and you're like, come on, man.
You gonna do me like that?
Yeah, you're like, most of the bad stuff was the gen ed. Can I divvy it out to
Take the science. I'm not a scientist. Take the science out of it.
That's what I would say. I would say one semester of senior year, I was on Dean's List. I think I got a 3.2 one semester of 1 year.
What was your degree in?
Marketing.
And you didn't want to do Amway? Well, it seems like.
Well, I think that's why they were coming after me. They go, hey, that's what you studied.
Marketing.
You studied pyramid schemes, and you should be familiar with it. But, yeah, that was. I've been duped a couple times. I'll maybe talk about those stories later on this one, or maybe in another one. But to get to, because I don't know how long we're gonna go, but we might go a little longer. And
hey, whatever. All night. That mic isn't until 9 o'clock, so we have.
We got a little time. So you're originally from what part of Iowa? Muscatine. So as I mentioned, Ethan is a comedian, also a musician, but we met through comedy. And
I met you the first time I came to Denver for comedy.
Where was that at?
Scruffy's.
Scruffy's.
I think you'd like just started.
Oh, okay.
You still had the backpack.
Oh, I had that for a while.
And well, finish.
So you started in Iowa in what part?
I started the first time I went up was at Penguins in Cedar Rapids.
And what year was that?
2017.
2017. So you did 2 years out there before moving? 2.5?
2.5.
You moved, what, mid-2019?
Yep.
Okay. So I had been doing it for maybe 6 months at that point. I'm sure, you probably couldn't tell because I was still pretty bad. But
I still can't.
Yeah, well, some can. Fans out there. I love how I talk to the fans, and it just points right back to the one person who's listening.
Yeah.
But so you did, and then you moved here. What? Obviously, if people aren't familiar, Midwest, smaller cities, it's a very different setup. How many comics would you say were in that scene?
Well, so it wasn't. It's not like the Cedar Rapids scene.
Yeah, it's kind of the Iowa.
It's the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, maybe and then maybe the Quad Cities, a different part, but it's like a group of, it's like an entire region.
To put together kind of a mic, what, 3 or 4 times a week?
Well, when I was in college, so this is 2017 into 20, so I was still in college, and there was the club, which was Penguins, that was every Wednesday, and Penguins closed because of the pandemic, but then there was a mic at Yacht Club, which is now Joystick in Iowa City.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there yet?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of it, though. Would like to get out there.
Ed's done it a few times. And awesome. I mean, they're from Iowa, so I remember when it was Yacht Club.
That's where they do the fest, right?
Yeah.
What's it?
Floodwater.
Did you apply for that?
Not this year, no.
I got an email back.
I
did not. Yeah.
You think, you really think when you know the guy who runs the place, you'd kind of get, even after you pay, it's like, hey, buddy,
You
I
would
gave
think.
you money. You would think. But no.
But sometimes,
And then-
you just got to lose money on.
Well, also, they didn't do it for a couple of years because
Yeah.
of COVID, so I didn't even know it was going on this year.
So you were out there for a couple years, and obviously in a smaller scene, you said hosting, featuring at Penguins?
I was hosting at the club within a year.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty common
Yeah.
in the smaller scenes where there's not as many people. And then you moved.
No, it's because I was so good.
Yeah. You
'cause I was a
regressed,
killer.
huh?
Yeah. I was really
So you
good.
moved out to Denver mid 2019. What was like the biggest difference that you noticed, or what were kind of like initial impressions when you moved out to Denver?
So I came out here because Jameson, our friend Jameson,
Mhm.
he's the reason I moved here.
Okay.
Because he was living out here. He's like, dude, you should come here. Because I was moving with the band, and we had decided it was either going to be, I wanted Chicago.
You got beat out?
obviously. But Raul, he's from Texas. He's like, it's too cold in Chicago.
Oh, I agree.
And Cole was like, the traffic is too bad in Chicago. So then I'm like, well, how about Denver? Because I'd been here a few times, and I knew people out here. And
now, funny enough, neither of them in the band, they both moved to Chicago. No, they're both.
they have
here.
a
local,
they have
right?
no.
Did they move?
Cole moved. He's in Arkansas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But
What part?
I don't know.
Scratch that. I don't even know parts. of Arkansas.
the redneck part.
The right. The redneck. Is he from there?
No,
Oh, okay.
he's a buddy who lives down there.
Okay.
And so I came out here. I had a couple job interviews in April of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I flew out here. I stayed at Jameson and Austin Black's apartment for a few days, and they were like, just park in the parking lot. It's all good. I wake up the next morning to go drive to Lakewood, and my rental is towed.
Oh
It's
my
gone.
God, dude. You have the worst luck.
And I'm like, what? And they're like, we've had people stay here a bunch of times because the whatever it's
Garage
called.
door.
Yeah, it was broken. It was just wide open.
Oh,
So they weren't
gosh.
checking. So they didn't.
Yeah.
We went down to the person. They're like, well, you were supposed to get a pass. He's like, well, we've never had to get a pass before. And they're like, sorry.
So just to interject real quick, and then I'll let you get back to that story. So had that car towed, had the tire issue he talked
Car
about,
stolen.
and then car stolen like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good luck. How many tickets have you had here? 27? Two. Okay, well, doing all right
Two.
on that end. So anyways, back to you got here, you had some bad
And
luck
that's
starting
when
out, but
that's
then
when I met you. I think I met you that night at Scruffy Murphy's.
Okay.
We went up. It was like Jameson went third to last. You went second to last, and like I went last.
sounds about right.
It
Yeah.
was like 11:45.
Oh,
on
that
a
would have been an
Tuesday.
early night, dude.
Or 12:30
Yeah.
on a Tuesday or whatever. But that was like the first shock was there are a lot of people,
Yeah.
lots of comics.
Yeah.
Because you would, if, Penguins, if the list was at 25, you're like, Jesus,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people here.
Here,
tonight.
if the list is at 25, you're like,
I'm getting home early.
whoa,
Yes.
dude. Was there an accident that involved a lot of comics?
I hope so, because I want to go home. So, yeah, it was just a lot of people. And then, like,
How regularly in Iowa were you getting booked?
so I was doing Penguins. There weren't as many showcases.
Right. But yeah,
So I had Penguins. I was lucky. So I had at least if I did all 4 mics, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then did the shows, it was only one show a night. I
Mhm.
could get 20, 30, I could get 40 minutes of stage time every week, which isn't too bad.
but showcase, so you would host most weekends,
yeah.
and outside of that, were you getting booked
If there was a showcase or a show
just
or
wasn't
whatever,
much going on?
I'd generally
like independently?
Yeah, I'd generally get booked. There weren't like many like weekly shows. It was
Right.
like once every
Once in a
month
blue
or
moon.
so.
Yeah.
And I would get on it. But
So out there, before coming out, was it pretty cushy in the sense of the scene out there, because there weren't a lot of comics? Were the crowds like very supportive because they didn't have much exposure to like a bunch of comedians and a bunch of like very funny people, or what was that like?
well, Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's so long ago at this point. It's hard to actually
Like
accurately remember.
out there, do you remember you're like, I was crushing or I was doing better than here?
Oh, yeah.
Or,
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
First. But also, like, I was doing a lot of stuff in Iowa City, which is a pretty liberal college town. And sometimes they'd be great.
doesn't translate to the liberal Denver town.
Sometimes some of the jokes I would make at Iowa City's expense, I can use at Denver's expense.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like super conservative or anything like that, but you know, you bald white guy, you
Don't get away with as
you
much.
don't get you don't get as much leeway on certain topics, like golf, which we both talk about a lot.
Big
Golf I
fans.
have about 15 minutes of golf material.
Oh, did you take it from me, dude?
I did. I've never golfed once.
I remember those golf jokes I used to do. I was like, this is my A stuff.
This is going to be on my special.
I mean, I can't even remember what they are. I think one of them, let me see if I can remember. Do you remember them? One of them was,
If you start saying it, I might remember it.
If I play golf, and here's some like golf terms. If you hit a ball that curves to the right, it's called a slice.
Oh, yeah.
But if you hit a ball that goes like super crazy far to the right, that's called a neo-Nazi. I was like, I've made it big.
That's it.
And then I had like a lot of those. They were all horrible.
Had?
I'm doing it next week now. No, I honestly
haven't.
haven't.
30 minutes.
I haven't done those probably since. I don't think I've done those post-pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2019 was there's a lot. It's interesting looking back on like if I had to. You're like, yeah, not even if I had to, I wouldn't do those. But if you look back at like old material that you thought was really good and you grow out of, you're like, oh, I thought I had like 15 minutes that is just hot garbage.
Yeah.
Like straight up
or
terrible.
Or you look back and you're like, well, I can see why I thought it was good because there's a nugget of a good idea there. I just wasn't capable.
Yeah. Most of my early stuff though is just very odd, and then also like there's nuggets that I'll be able to pull forward from old jokes, but a lot of it is, like the open mic premise where you're like, oh, I have a hot take on this thing that you think is original, but it's not original at all. A lot of premises like that where you're like, I don't even want to touch that premise because it's just overdone. So even if there's a nugget in there, you're like, I don't.
There you go. That was one thing. First mic after moving here, the very first thing, after like 10 minutes of my first mic, I'm like, I will never talk about dating apps, and I will never talk about it.
That's my closer.
I will never.
Eating sandwiches.
Yes. I will never do it because.
Yeah, there's, and a lot of people do. And I mean, yeah, I do have a dating apps joke. I feel like it's different than.
Yeah,
a lot, but it's still like the topic of dating apps is definitely
what do you put in the bio? It's like, shut up,
dude. That's my joke.
Shut up.
That joke. It's funny because I didn't do that joke. Like I had it and then I just never did it. And then I think I put it in a set list where I had to do a lot more time.
Well, you actually like write, so you actually put thought into it. It's most of the time is I just don't know. What do I put? And then it's just always I have anxiety and I have blah 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 blah. Yeah,
that's a big.
It's all the same.
That hits hard here.
It's like all the same stuff.
So what I would like to get to. Well, I'll let you finish that up real quick. So you came in and then it was like a lot more people. Mm-hmm. You realized immediately like, oh gosh, there's a lot of topics that probably were talked about all the time in Iowa that you're like,
and you could see a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You could see like, well, I'm at the bottom. I'm the
no
bottom
hierarchy in Iowa.
Well, there was just less. There were just less people.
Yeah. And was there like a couple up here and then everybody else kind of floated?
Like me and then everybody else, So
yeah.
No, it was like Don. Do you know Donnie Townsend?
Oh yeah.
Donnie, he's like cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Donnie's great.
Yeah.
And then there's like the rest of us, regular people. But like even with it, there's always a hierarchy or whatever.
Yeah.
But just because there's so many more people. And there's so many more mics, and then you actually have a real club. It's like you come here and you could kind of see, especially looking back, you can be like, well, there were the people who just got here, and like I got here at the same time. You just started. Emerson and Jonas had just moved here. I think Jet Stonick had just moved here.
Yep.
Alec Flynn. We all like moved here in like the same 5 month
Did Alec
period.
move here right
Yeah.
at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody last night about people I started with, and I was like, honestly, I can't think of one person that started basically the same time as me that started at the same time. Like everybody I feel like I started with moved from a different scene. You, Stonick, Jacob, Emerson, Langley.
Yeah.
They all moved in
We all
and
moved
had,
at like the
and
same
had
exact
done a
time.
couple years elsewhere. So I'm like, I guess like Ben Kassam, I think started a little bit after me, but he was like 6 months after, and he was in Boulder area, I think, for a little bit. So we started around the same time, but as far like, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, the same week these 6 comics started, and I'm
They
like,
did the first mic.
and honestly, it could have been. I was so like shy and like scared that I didn't. I mean, it took me over 6 months
How
to.
was it for you? I remember when I started. Here's funny. So I wanted to start, and I was looking at open mics, and I saw Penguins did an open mic every Wednesday, and this is in May of 20. I didn't start till November. In May of 2017, right at the end of the. I kept making excuses. I'm like, I got too much schoolwork. I'll go at the end of the semester because my cousin lived in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll go at the end of the semester, and then I'll just stay in his
Crush,
apartment.
stay at his place. He'll
See how it
make
like-
me breakfast because I did so good.
And he's like, he didn't have to work or something. He's like, dude, I'll go down with you. And we go down, and on the website, it said, sign up 6:30 to 7. Show starts at 8. And so we got down there. It was 7:05.
They didn't let
I'm
you
like,
on?
No. And I was like too nervous, and I looked at Nick, and I'm like, hey, I can't sign up. They said sign up's at 7. So we sat and watched the show.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe not, but I know he did come to my very first one.
Yeah.
6 months later when I finally grew a pair.
Yeah.
And
At
we-
Penguins?
At Penguins.
How'd it go?
It wasn't
Did
great.
they pull a good crowd there for the
I don't.
open mic?
There are some weekends it was really, or some nights it was really good. But I think the first one there were probably like 10, 15 people.
Yeah. And
And-
that was when you were how old?
20. This is 2017, so I'd have been 20. I just turned 24.
Okay. So out of college.
It was I took a couple of years off.
Okay.
So I was still.
So you're still in college
I was still
when you started.
I was actually at the university. So
Yeah. I didn't do. I talked about this I think on my first or second podcast, but I didn't do the first mic that I went to go do. It was at the Funny Bone, and I walked up
in
to
Virginia, right?
in Virginia,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Richmond, and I mean I had no idea. I didn't even know. I had no clue about anything.
Yeah.
My assumption probably was that every open mic was like at a club. I didn't know about just regular open
Same.
mics.
Yeah, same.
But I went there, and the person at like the will call counter handed me like 25 physical tickets and goes basically like the top 10 comedians who come back and bring the most people will get to go up. And I mean, I live 2.5 hours away. I was like visiting a friend while I was there. And so I was like, well, I'm getting nobody. So obviously I'm not even going to try. So that was 2011, I think. And then fast forward, I finally tried it for the first
What was
time.
your
in
first mic
2018.
here?
Rise. It used to be called
Okay,
Voodoo.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it the day after Christmas, 2018.
Oh yeah. I remember that from a couple pods ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who heard it. So
I thought about. I looked back at I said in the podcast, I go, maybe I'll put in a clip of the first thing. I went back and looked at the first
watched it,
clip,
you're
and I
like,
go,
nobody should see this.
no, I'll leave it out. I was like, maybe it'll be funny in a cringe way. I looked at it, I go, still not.
I'm not established enough in my own.
Yeah, and
security.
the funny thing is, it actually went pretty well for the first time. I mean, for 2 months after that, I went to like not supportive open mics, like just any other bar or whatever, and I'd go up last or toward the end, and just 0 laughs. So it was actually better than most, but even with that, you're like, oh.
I remember.
I'm just like pacing, like just giving off anxious energy. Where you're like, oh no, I can't watch that. That's
I have audio of I think every time I've ever been on stage. I think maybe with a couple exceptions.
how many times do you think you've gone up?
I don't know. Well, those first 2 years in Iowa, it's like only 1 to 5 times a week. So probably right around between 800 and 1,000. I would imagine.
Yeah, I feel like I'm probably around
or between
1,000.
Between 700 and 1,000.
My first year, 2019, I think I did 300.
Oh my God.
And I mean, that was basically all open mics. I did 2, maybe 3 shows.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously 2020 wasn't a ton in there. And then 2021, 2022 probably got close, about 300 each as well. So I imagine at this point, probably around 1,000.
Yeah. Did you have this when you started? I like to think I'm pretty self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember going in thinking, I'm not going to be very good. So I'm generally pretty like quiet. I know that's hilarious, but like I'm generally like when I'm around people I don't strangers.
I'm
like,
same way.
I don't
I'm very
talk
outgoing,
very
but if
much. I'm just kind of.
My first 6 months was literally like hiding in a corner.
But I also like that's how I am naturally. But also like now I'm in this environment where it's like I'm going up and probably gonna bomb, and then I'm gonna come off stage.
Better get a little loud for it.
And then I'm gonna come off stage, and then I'm gonna have to. Like this, that's the currency we go in is laughs, right? So you don't want to come off stage and bomb, and then just like with the funny comic and just be like, "Yeah, buddy, yeah." It's like I want them to actually like me on stage, or at least don't think I suck before I like try and make them be my friend,
right?
So, I would just kind of sit there with my arms crossed and not say anything, and that's what Jameson told me. He's like, "Dude, I didn't like you the first like 4 months because." You were just kind of standoffish, and you sucked. You weren't very good. And he's not wrong. I like that first set it went okay,
and
then it was the next 3 months. It was just maybe 2 laughs.
That was the same for me. First one was okay, and then literally, I think for 2 months at least, just straight bombing, going up at the end. Nobody cared. Nobody was listening. And then did Looney's open mic 2 or 3 months in. And, you know, for my brain in the beginning there, I was like, I crushed.
That was your first good one?
Yeah.
I remember my first good one, too.
Yeah.
Because
Penguins also?
At Penguins.
Yeah.
I remember Jameson was right after. This is when we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
I walked off stage, and he's like, hey, good set. And I'm like, about time.
About freaking time.
Yeah. I was really, really excited. God, it felt good. Because it was like 3 straight months of just.
I'm going to have to edit. Take some time to edit this.
You have two. That's why I pulled it away. So it's not going to be that hard.
The same thing for me. I remember doing well, but like at that point, there was no way I could be in the moment and be like, riffing and ripping and whatever. The hucking and jiving. Is that a whatever?
Shucking and jiving. All right.
Missed the mark on that one, but
yes, you did.
I was really, you're not in the moment, and so it's tough to enjoy it. But it was going well, and it wasn't until I got off stage and there were multiple people down in Colorado Springs who were like, "Dude, that was great," that it like dawned on me, like, "Oh, that went well." Because I think in the beginning too,
with it,
you have no experience, and also you're just not in the moment, so you're kind of just doing the routine, and that can really take away from understanding what's going on. And obviously you see that especially with newer comics, the lack of understanding and being able to read the room, because you're just so focused on yourself and your rehearsed.
I rehearsed in my head on all day at work.
So that took years to be able to, like, something happens and you just be a normal person to address it. And you go, that seems so easy, but it's like, it takes a lot of not doing that to get to that point, to just like point out a very, like, you spilled your drink. Like in the beginning, you're like, I just don't even talk about it.
I mean, they don't even move the mic stand.
Yeah.
It takes them like 3 weeks to figure that out.
I did the same thing. I left the mic stand right in front of me and then just paced behind it.
I think.
I hate when people do that. I did the same thing, but
I want to say I did move it because I sat and watched the whole show before on my first show, and I saw a couple people not move the mic stand, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to at least move the mic stand.
You go, look. I may be new, but I know
but come on,
something.
I pay attention. Dude, I'm in college.
I went to Penguins, and didn't sign up because it was 7:05. So I saw.
Yeah,
I saw what's up.
I was pretty nervous.
What?
You know what's funny is if I had signed up that night, I think that might have been. It was right at Jameson started only like 6 months before me, so it would have been like I would have either started the week before he started, the week he did, or the week after.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like let's get to we're probably running low on time here, but let's I want to end on a good story. It's cliche, but big bomb story. You got any big bomb stories in Iowa or Denver or both? I've been present for
I have two.
Some.
My two worst. I have one. The worst. Well,
have you told me these?
I've told you both of them.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
The worst.
I can't remember.
I was.
Maybe I'm sure I'll.
Oh Jesus! It's like you retroactively get embarrassed all over again.
Yeah. Oh no.
I was hosting at Penguins. Hosting a show.
I don't know if I remember this.
I was hosting a show, and I'd come up with this new bit, and this is like I did it at the open mic that week. It was like brand new.
Yeah.
And it did okay, but I thought it was funny.
And you go, I'm going to close with it now.
And
that's such a new. I remember doing that. Just throwing in brand new stuff. When you're like, dude, you're at Comedy Works.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I did it at one open mic.
And, I was like, well, also I'd been hosting for a few weeks. I'm like, I don't want to do the exact same 10 minutes. And I threw it in, and the premise was something about why do old people care? Why do middle-aged people and older people care about politics? Like, you're not going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, why does it matter to you? And the punchline, we'll put that in quotes, was something along the lines of, why don't you just sit back in your recliner, put on MeTV, and watch reruns of Johnny Carson like a real old person?
Mm-hmm.
And
the crowd was all 100?
The crowd was all 40 plus. And there was this
40
guy,
plus, pretty good. My average crowd is a little older than that.
You would have killed with this crowd. And there was this guy sitting up front, goatee, gray hair, cross-armed, front row.
Mm-hmm.
And just loud enough for me to hear, he goes, "You got any punchlines?" Oh, my God.
No.
Oh.
Did you address it?
Oh, well, it was only loud enough for me. I'm like, yeah. It was so bad. And I immediately got off stage. Because Jameson was there. I was texting him like, dude, I wish you were here. I just had the worst bomb of my life. I want to kill myself.
Was it just that one, or it wasn't going well, and that was like cherry
that
on
was
top?
that was the cherry on top. It just was. They weren't liking me at all. There was like this one table of like people in like their early 30s. It was like this couple, and they were laughing, they were chuckling, and they were having a good time.
How many people total were there? You got 2 out of how many?
There were probably like 50 to 60 people in the room.
2 out of 60, not bad.
And
3%, 4% round up.
That was rough. And then the worst bomb I've had in Denver was at Grandma's house in December. That was the worst.
How does that compare to, because you crumbled a bit, granted the show was off the rails a little bit, but it
well, that was, I at least had, it was still like kind of fun.
Okay.
And
this was the one you were telling me about somewhat recently?
Yes.
I didn't know it was this bad.
Oh my God. Dude, I threw my notebook in the trash. I was so upset.
Were the other people crushing?
Dude, listen. So I go there, and
by the way, if people aren't familiar, if you're in Denver, you know, but Grandma's House is a weekly brewery show that is pretty consistently a hot show that's filled out with 70 to 100 people.
Never do well there. And never.
Wow.
And
it's because you got to smile, dude. You got to smile on stage.
Well, people only want to hear about.
Don't want to hear
about Ben Franklin.
You should try this.
On a Saturday.
Talking about how people judge you. Going back to you saying like being bald and whatever, and people like they judge you as you're going on stage. You should try going on stage like actively smiling to see if that has a difference of like people's impression of you in the beginning is you smiling. So then when you're doing some like more like fake ranting, like angry stuff.
Well, I am a curmudgeon.
You should try to pretend you're not.
I know. It's not good.
You should lead with a smile. Try it out.
But here's the thing. I get there, and he gives me a 10-minute. He gives me a
guest spot.
Mm-hmm. He's like 10 minutes. It might have been 5. I can't remember.
5?
5 or 10.
Hurt that bad?
And I can't remember who went up first, but they did great. And then Salma
Mm-hmm.
went up and
Crushed.
murdered, of course. And then Devesh went up and murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeff Nelson went up and murdered to a level that I've never seen him murder.
Really?
He destroyed.
Well, that's
Killer.
That's-
Now,
you shouldn't have gone after all that. Especially if you're doing a guest spot.
and then I went in and I'm like, as it's happening, I'm like, oh no. So like I went in like
You're
with
like,
the
they're
bad
not
mindset.
gonna like the Abraham Lincoln stuff.
There was one part of me that's like, maybe I will ride the wave, or it's just gonna crash and burn. And I
then
go
that
up,
first punchline misses, and you go, "Oh
and I'm like,
no!"
oh, Jesus! And it's just bomb after everything. Just no. It was like, I'm not kidding. Like consecutive minutes of silence. And on stage, in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm going to go home and kill myself. I'm killing myself after this. I'm going to commit suicide. I hate this. And
That feeling, dude,
Stonic.
where you lose,
And then Stonic was going up after me.
and he crushed,
And
or he
like,
just riffed on it
on stage, in my head, I'm like, I am gonna go say bye, and I'm going home, and nobody's ever gonna see me again. And I go off stage, and Stonic's standing there, and I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. And he goes on stage, and he's like, wow, that last guy really sucked, didn't he? He sucked. And everybody laughed. And I'm like, oh, God.
Oh no!
So then I go back, and like Salma and Corey David are talking to each other, and like Corey was headlining, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry for just killing the room. I'm so sorry. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. We've been,
you can't hear in the back.
yeah, and
You should have just gone pretty
well,
good.
and Salma's like, no, I heard him laughing. I'm like, no, you didn't. I bombed. I sucked, and then I left. And
That's the worst, when you bomb and then you feel the need to be like, I'm sorry.
I've like legitimately felt bad. And through the Notebook, I don't think I went out for like 2 or 3 days. I was like at a legitimate, like, I might
Low
quit.
point.
I legit might quit.
I think I remember you texted me.
I did. I'm like, this is.
That's what's funny about comedy. It's the ups and downs, and you'll have stretches of a couple good shows or a lot of good shows in a row to where your mindset, you're like, I'm just good now. And then you'll have the opposite where you're like, I don't know if I know what a joke is.
Oh my God, it was
And
bad.
it's you ride the highs and you ride the lows.
I think I did. No, I might have done River the next night, and then still.
Well,
No, I mean, yeah.
yeah, but coming on, you want to get something.
Stonic told me at the show, he's like,
I'll put you up early.
well, no, he was like, yeah, that first joke I did about you,
Yeah.
it killed, and then I proceeded to bomb. For
Oh,
10
yeah?
minutes. And then Corey didn't have a great set.
It's
so
funny. So I mean, sometimes like
Nelson should have closed that show. He
especially
destroyed.
with who'd you say, Salma, Devesh, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
If they all crush in a row, like sometimes that just happens where like they were crushing, but the crowd gave all the energy they had to them, and then after it's just like down. I mean, you see that with headliners all the time that are very funny, and people will come up to like the feature and be like, "I thought you were funnier," and it's like, who was it? Somebody said that I did a show in Fort Collins. I wasn't featuring, but one of my friends was there and said, I thought the feature was way funnier than the headliner. And the headliner is a touring comedian, very funny.
Headliner's Jerry Seinfeld.
Unbelievably funny. But you could tell it's like they don't know as audience member, but that was a long show.
Mm-hmm.
That headliner had to work to get him into, like, if he wasn't a good headliner, it would have been a complete bomb. He did fine. But it's like that feature, that is the hot spot. And then the attention went downhill, and the headliner had to use all his skills to like rein it back in. But the viewer is like, that last guy was funnier. It's like, well, yeah, because he only had to do 15 minutes of his best jokes in the hottest part of the show. And then the headliner, everybody's like ready to go, ready to get out of there. They're kind of drunk, tired, not paying attention. And he has to do 30 plus. And you're like, that's, anyways.
It's a parlor trick.
It's a trick. That's what a lot of it is, just tricks. Like that, a lot of jokes I look back on that they just happen to work. Like before you understand joke structure, they just happen to work, and so that those are the ones you latch onto because those are getting responses. And you look back and you go, "Oh, I just unknowingly just figured out a trick before I knew how to write a joke. I just said things in a way that happened to match that algorithm, and I tricked you." And it is kind of funny.
Well, that's the mental, because all comics like hate themselves.
Yeah.
So when the crowd, when you bomb, you're like, the crowd sucked. But then when the crowd likes it, you're like, I tricked that crowd. They're stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Just everybody's stupid.
Everybody sucks.
Well, we're running a little overtime here. Let's end on usually end on a book I'm reading and a vocab word. Ethan is a very big reader. These are all I imagine you've read all or most of these.
I will say there's probably 350 books here. I've probably read
350. Wow.
probably of varying lengths, of course. And then I've got like 4 or 5 upstairs. But I would say I've probably read. Well, some of these aren't mine. A few of these aren't mine. But I've read probably out of 350, I've probably read 200 of them. Yeah.
And let's give a recommendation to the viewers. Recent book you've read. Great book.
Oh, geez. I'm reading the Edmund Morris, Teddy Roosevelt 3 trilogy here. So the first book is his birth to McKinley's death when he becomes president, and then the second book is his presidency.
Recent non-history book.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I didn't say that. But I don't know who you're talking about right now.
Teddy Roosevelt?
Roosevelt, no, the McKinley or who? I don't.
Well, he was the president before Roosevelt.
Was he?
Yes, he was his vice. Roosevelt was his vice president. He got shot in Buffalo. That's how he became president.
McKinley.
Yes. He's the 3rd president to be assassinated.
Didn't know that.
Exactly. Got a book about him right over there if you want to read
I'll have to check it out.
I haven't read it yet, so.
Non-history book. Good one.
Let's see. Recently, I read Frankenstein.
That's old, like
1817.
Okay, but it holds up.
The movie's better.
Okay.
It's very different.
So
the book is so much different.
So is it good? Like,
it's
just a recent book you read. It's not.
It's just a
great.
recent book. It's just the last non-history book I read.
Last recommendation though. Like, what's one you've read that you're like, that was good?
So the one I think about. I mean, I'm never gonna not say everybody should read Harry Potter because you should, but I like. It is great.
Stephen King, shout out.
11/22/63, another Stephen King book.
I need to read that one.
Might be his best book. It's very good.
That's a new one,
Love
right?
it. Yeah, it came out in like 2010.
Newer.
It's very good.
So,
East of Eden. Also, get out of town.
I shouted that out. I recorded
East
a
of Eden.
podcast for it. I said I haven't been reading a new book too much recently, but I went through favorites. East of Eden. Something about it.
Love it.
Something about it, because you look at the plot of that and you go, it's fairly mundane.
Yeah.
But it's just written in such a way. You're like, I don't know, but maybe it's a trick. Maybe he's doing what we do with comedy, where he's like, something happens and it makes me.
He wrote it and he's like, people are stupid.
Yeah, he's like, this is a bad book and they like it. What are they, idiots?
Like on the top 100 books ever written.
Yeah,
every list.
So good. I like that so much better than Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, I do too. And I think out of his big 3, I think Grapes of Wrath is the least engaging.
Yeah.
East of Eden, The Mice and Men, I would take over Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah. I read a lot of his books actually, and some of them are like, oh gosh. But East of Eden, masterpiece.
Oh
Very
my
good.
God, so good.
What recent vocabulary word you picked up, or just one out of the books that you want to teach the viewers here, or also myself, because I probably.
Well, in 11/22/63, he keeps saying the past is obdurate.
Obdurate. Spell it.
Obdurate.
All right. The past is obdurate, meaning the past is irrelevant.
I don't think that's what it means.
Do you know what it means?
I can't remember.
Oh, gosh.
I believe it means the past doesn't want to be changed. I'm pretty sure.
Obdurate.
Obdurate.
Obdurate with the T. Obdurate.
Pretty sure it means doesn't want to be changed. Because that's kind of the motif.
That makes sense, right?
That's the motif of the book.
Doesn't want it, can't.
Yeah. Well.
Not yet.
Read the book. It's very good.
There you go.
As far as Stephen King goes, that Misery. Have you read Misery yet?
No. I've only read
a couple. It's short. It's
Shining
phenomenal.
and The Institute. Those are the only 2.
Well, it's in the same. It's on the same
genre
level. It's on the same level of The Dark Tower as The Shining. That means it's in the same timeline.
Okay. Interesting.
Very good. It's very good.
Well, I'll have to check those out. You guys check them out. Leave your book recommendations for myself, for Ethan. Follow Ethan on Instagram at the Ethan Everhart. He's also in a band. Check out his albums at Solar Flare Sunset.
Solar Flare Sunset.
Check it out on YouTube, on Instagram, on all the stuff.
What else is good over here? I haven't looked at this in a while. This is in my basement. I'm usually up in my room. Have you read any Ayn Rand?
Yeah. You
Which
told
one
me.
did-
I read
Anthem's okay. The Fountainhead, the first
The
half.
Fountainhead. I read the half.
The first half is good. The second half, it's like, shut up,
Well, I
lady.
stopped
Oh
after the
my
first
God.
half,
Good.
so-
That's all you need to read.
That's all I need.
Oh, my God. Get off your high horse, lady. We get it.
We'll
You support
dissect
Hitler.
the rest of these books, and I'll throw some recommendations in the next pod. But we'll go ahead and end it there. We're going over time here a little bit. But thanks so much for being on. Follow him on Instagram at the Ethan Everhart.
There you go.
And we'll see you guys again next week.
Peace.